Welcome to Smart in the City, the Babel podcast. I am your host, Tamlin Shimizu, and really at Babel, we aim to connect the players in the smart city industry with high quality information and ideas through our platform and services. This podcast is really an extension of this goal and mission to drive the change for a better urban life. So, we haven't journeyed too far from Finland, just a short trip to Prague in this podcast. And now we're going back to Finland. We're going to Lahti, to be exact, which is a municipality around 100 kilometers or so north from Helsinki. And in this episode, we are also really capturing the essence of public-private partnership, which is obviously a topic that is very close to our goals at Babel. So, but now, I'll stop talking so much and introduce you to the great guests that we have for today. First, I would like to introduce you all to Johanna Palomäki, who is city architect for the city of Lahti. She's all about community engagement, participatory planning, and more. So thanks so much for coming on, Johanna.
Thank you. Thank you, Tamlin. My pleasure to be here.
Yeah, really our pleasure, but I'm really interested to dig into all of your thoughts around these topics. And also I have to introduce you to our other interviewee who's with us today to bring in really the private sector perspective as well. And her name is Maarit Kahila, who is the CEO and co-founder at Maptionnaire, which is a community engagement platform for managing public participation processes in a central place. Yeah, welcome also, Maarit.
Thank you, Tamlin. Great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. So we always get started with a little tease, a little way into the questions with a warm-up, so to say. So your history goes back a long way with each other, I've heard. Can you tell us about the first time you met? If you remember.
Oh, gosh.
Whose memory is best?
Johanna. Help me.
This is a test whether we remember the same thing or not. I remember for certain that I had heard a lot about Maarit, that she was the researcher who had been doing from the research side the things that I had been endeavoring in practice. And I had read something written by you. And then finally, maybe around 2010, it might have been, or something like that, around that time, I finally got to meet you on Aalto University campus.
Yeah, because I remember that. I agree with you, and I remember that as well, that I think we met at the Aalto University. I think we met at the institute.
Yes.
Where I was still working. Somehow I remember you kind of entering Marketa's office or something like that, and we had a small meeting or chat or something. This is something I remember, but not in detail.
Yes, maybe we have to explain that the unifying factor for us is, or the common denominator is Marketta Kyttä, professor at University of Aalto, who is really the groundbreaking person in participatory planning and GIS systems. Maarit, you can explain this much better than I can. And
yeah, it might be that I will come back to that, but it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, she is also behind this whole innovation of kind of using GIS, geographic information system, in bringing the knowledge from the people and gathering the experience-based information from the people about their living environment. So she is behind the whole innovation, and I have been happy to work with her throughout my career. So
I could point out that there's actually, when you were saying that public-private partnership, like a company and the city, then the third very important party or factor in this equation is the academic community. So we, from at least the city's perspective where I work, we need the platform and the tools developed by the private sector to do the things that we want to implement. But also, I find it very valuable that we have a close relationship to academic research, so that we are able to do work at the city which is based on research and fact and.
Yeah, the research-backed decision making and driving forward with these tools is very important. Yeah, yeah. Thanks so much for a little background, and then I want to, start speaking on a bit of a high level on the topic of today. And when I spoke to you both first, I think it was very clear that you wanted to speak really about this knowledge-driven community engagement aspect. So maybe Johanna, you can go first. What does that mean to you at its core?
I think urban planning is a lot about using different types of knowledge that we have about the environment, the physical environment and people. And it comes in many categories. We're very used to using knowledge about like geographical information about what kind of soil situation we have, what kind of ground, and so on. We use knowledge about traffic situation. We use knowledge about nature, and so on. And we know a lot about the features of the natural environment where we are operating. But what's more sort of new to us is knowledge about the people who are the end users of the city environment. And I've done concerted effort in my own work to bring that knowledge about the people and their wishes, their desires, their needs, and even their behaviors into planning processes. And that's where we find especially common ground with Maarit.
Yeah, and I would love to hear your perspective as well. What does it really mean to say knowledge-driven community engagement? It sounds like a bit of a buzzword, right? But how can we bring it to ground and give it heart?
Yeah, it was, when I started to work with this type of tools and innovations in 2005, I remember being a little bit sort of irritated how we usually understand participation as an action. We tend to think that it should be based on discussion and meeting up with people and having this one-on-one discussions. And I felt that it's narrowing down the way. And it's narrowing down our possibilities in reaching out people more broadly. And that's why I got very interested of the idea that when we are gathering this new type of information that's based on people's perceptions and ideas and thoughts, and we get this new data, that actually could that also build a bridge between the expert, the professional, the planner, and the resident. And of course, I do understand that discussion still is required. I don't say that we could neglect that, but in addition, this knowledge-driven, or actually in my dissertation, I talk about knowledge-informed planning. That this, and as Johanna said, urban planning, it's a lot about different kinds of information and data sets. But I'm happy to see today that the data we can capture from the people is also taken seriously. And it's also part of the knowledge planners are using.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned this concept to me before, and I wonder if you can touch on that again, Maarit. On you said whose knowledge counts. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think it refers exactly to this point that we were just talking about, that we have a lot data and information available, and also planning as a work. I mean, Johanna can describe this better, but it requires a lot of information and data. But the question is that, do we have a good amount of data from the people to whom we are actually designing these environments. And then the other question is after that if we have the data from the people, is it representative? Whose knowledge do we actually have, and who are we listening to? And I think in participation, we still have challenges in that it's usually only the loud ones whose voice comes through, and we don't get people's voices sort of broadly enough.
Yeah. And how do you do that on the city administration side of things, Johanna? Like, how do you make sure that all the soft voices are counted too?
You can't make sure. It's never going to be perfect, and we have to acknowledge that. But I think it's a good goal to try to make the discussion as wide as possible and include as many voices as possible and as much knowledge from the people as possible. And you need several different methods for doing this. And like Maarit said, discussion, or one-to-one discussion or live discussion with the citizens is really important. It's important not only for gathering knowledge, but also just for building a good relationship and trust with the people, and to get to know them and make sort of, instead of making anonymous planning processes, we give a face to the work that we do. We meet the people and we tell them what we do, why we do it, who we are, what are the values that we represent as city officials when we are doing this work. But in addition to this, this kind of meeting the people, I think it's a good idea to broaden the scope and try to get more voices heard via some kind of platform to collect more data in a more systematic way that we can analyze in a more systematic way and put into the planning process in more sort of similar way as we treat all other knowledge, so that the sort of difference between sort of so-called hard data and soft data becomes smaller. It's more similar the way we treat knowledge from the citizens and from the people than, say, for example, knowledge that we have about flying squirrels or groundwater or traffic. Also, all that knowledge about the physical environment is produced by people. Those people just happen to be experts in their own field that they are dealing with. The knowledge that we get about flying squirrels comes from experts on that subject. And now if we want knowledge about how the city works in everyday life, then the best experts are the citizens themselves, the people who use the city. So why not take the knowledge from them in a systematic way and use it in a systematic way in planning processes? And Maarit's company, Maptionnaire, has a really, really good tool that we've been using for years.
Yeah,
to this end.
yeah. We'll talk about that in just a minute. I'm wondering if you collect a lot of data on flying squirrels in Lahti.
Yeah, it's a species that we have to take into account in planning because of EU directives. So yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, good little tidbit there. More, of course. Yeah, Maarit, I do want to talk about tools now, because you're really on that side of the equation, supplying the tools to really do this type of work. First question is, how do you think cities should use tools, and how should they not use tools?
Oi, like all tools.
All tools, all city. For example, your tool. We can narrow it if you'd like. How should a city use your tool, and how should they not use it?
Yeah, I think we need to narrow it down. I mean, Johanna can maybe give better idea, but I think cities are using so many different kinds of tools and channels also when communicating with people. But of course, we see nowadays also more and more cities who are interested and eager to direct different types of activities to Maptionnaire platform as well. And that's also, I think, it to some extent it can happen that you have one tool, one service through which you take care of most of the activities, but then I think it will be always there that you have these other tools also available and in use. But yeah, what cities should do and what they shouldn't. I mean, of course, I love always, I think that's amazing when cities use the tool a lot, because that's the way how they learn the capabilities of the tool. They learn about themselves, that how to shape their processes, what's useful for them. And, so I think when they use it a lot and when they are open to learn, and also I think that too, that when the colleagues, for example, new colleagues are willing to test and learn. So, and I think that's the other side, that what they shouldn't do is that to have just one person maybe in the organization, can you take care of these engagement questionnaires, map-based questionnaires, can you do that, all that? And then it's this one poor person who needs to take care of all these different kinds, designing the tools for different projects. So I think it's better if the planners also do, they cannot do, of course, I mean, but they are more involved into the designing phase of these engagement tools. But that what they shouldn't do also is, I think this doesn't happen that often anymore. But I mean, we established a company 11 years ago, and I think it was more visible during that time that sometimes I felt that the cities, they are eager to test and try the tools and use the tools for data collection, but they were not that eager to really use the data in a way. And this is something I feel that they should not neglect this information. They should really use it and think in what ways it's valuable for them. So, yeah, hard question.
Good. Then I'm doing my job well.
Can I take on that?
Yes, please, Johanna.
Excellent point, that Maarit, that it's not enough to be eager to use the tool. You should also be eager to use the end result, the data and the knowledge that is produced. The tool is just a tool. It's not an end in itself, but the knowledge is. And the end result, the good plan that comes out at the end of the process is the end, and good life is the end product. And planning is all about processes. And I think it's a good idea to think about the way you use different tools for participation. What kind of tool and what kind of intervention together with the citizens is pertinent at which stage of the process. And from my experience, I know that the earlier you can initiate dialogue with citizens, the better. The earlier, the better. And I think the earliest thing that you can do with people is, before you even set out to a particular planning task, or before you set the goals for a particular planning project, you can already start collecting knowledge about how the city works. Where are the places that the citizens love? Where are the places that they want to develop, and why? What their experience of accessing services and things like that are on a general level, without even an agenda of planning. That's the earliest stage possible that you can engage people, and you can produce that kind of knowledge that you can then feed into different planning processes, and then you can initiate a dialogue with the people, even one-to-one, bringing into this you can give this knowledge. Hey, we've produced this knowledge in this questionnaire, and we found out that the citizens of Lahti love these and these areas, and they would like to see these and these areas developed further. And then you can start a discussion about whether that knowledge is valid and which development sites we should prioritize and what we should protect and what we should do. And these map-based questionnaires are very, very good for gathering this early stage knowledge.
What happens when people contradict each other? When you're collecting knowledge and people say, no, we want that. No, we don't want that. No, we should do this. No, we don't do this. What do you do then?
Planning results are never a result of a vote.
It's not a democracy.
It's a democratic process in that everyone can participate and give their view, and then it's, at least in the Finnish planning system, it's the elected decision makers who finally make the decision about the plan. So it's a democratic process, yes, and it's open. But it's not about, who shouts the loudest or which view gets the most votes, because it's not only about the people's knowledge. Remember, I said that we use many different types of knowledge. We have to take all that other knowledge into account as well and weigh what is the best solution, taken all this knowledge that we have, taken our strategic goals that we have, taken the values that we support, and then hopefully we can come into a consensus, make a planning solution that our decision makers can come into consensus about.
And may I add a little remark? I remember, when we did the first projects together, I was still working at the university. We did the first project with the urban planners in a couple of Finnish cities. And it was the very first time this type of innovation technology was used ever. And I remember when we were having a discussion with the planners, what was their biggest fear was that they get a lot of this negative feedback, because that was how it used to be more. They said to us that always when they organize these workshops or, public meetings, they get just this negative feedback. People are complaining, they are annoyed, they are asking like, why have you already planned everything? Why you haven't been listening to us? And why this type of sort of planning solution is taking place in here. And they were used to get this negative feedback. So they were, that was like very strong in their thinking. Like, and they were afraid a little bit that, okay, if we now open this Pandora box for the residents and we can give them the possibility to even more quickly to share their feedback, they were afraid that, what will happen? And after the first project, when they noticed that when the data is collected in a structured way and being taught carefully, what are the important questions, introducing the people, why we are gathering the information, what will happen in the area, what was the result was that they got a lot of positive feedback. People were giving positive comments and feedback and constructive thoughts. So, and this is still something. This is something that is still, I think, visible when these types of tools are used. That it's not only about negative feedback. I think it's more this positive and constructive feedback.
I remember one planning case in Lahti, for example, where the plan proposal was presented in Maptionnaire, and up until that time, we had the impression that there was a high-rise building in that plan, and we had the impression that everybody in Lahti opposes that building. But when the plan proposal was presented in Maptionnaire and people could point their views on the map, we found out that the views were 50-50. 50% of the respondents were against it, but then suddenly there were hundreds of people who were for building that high-rise building. And in all the public hearing events that we had organized until then, it was only the loud opposers who were being voiced. And the ones who were not against the plan, either they didn't come to the events or they didn't dare say a thing in face of the strong opposition.
Yeah, really interesting case. Do you have other examples maybe Johanna on how you use the tool to, and maybe it surprised you.
I don't know, maybe it surprised me so much, but in my career as a planner, I've been using the tool a lot for gathering very sort of extensive, large data sets that cover basically the whole city on a specific theme, or trying to gather that sort of without any planning agenda type of knowledge about people's everyday lives, and then feeding that on into next phases of the planning process. Because I have been working on sort of the general planning level or master planning level of the city for a long time, and that's sort of the kind of engagement that I've been most familiar with.
May I tell quickly what has surprised me in the way how Lahti has used Maptionnaire, because I think you have done extremely great job in shaping the internal processes as well, according to how to really utilize the data and how to take it further through these different kinds of tools you are using in planning. Maybe you can elaborate that a little bit more, Johanna, but I think you have done good.
Well, we've done concerted effort in Lahti to tackle this question about not just having eager use of the tool, but also using the data, making sure that the data is not forgotten in planning processes. So what we've done in a very sort of simple but innovative way, that we've used the GIS system that is used in the city where the city register is for all the map things, the GIS system of the city. We have integrated this experiential knowledge from people into that same system. So it's sort of on the same level, on a par with all the other knowledge that we have. So we try to make sure that it's easily found, and that different planners can use that knowledge just the same way as they use knowledge about groundwater areas or restrictions or something like that.
Yeah, really great insights. And I also always have to ask a bit on like the limitations of like what are the limitations to the benefits of using a tool like this? Like where do the benefits stop? Either of you.
I wouldn't say that the benefits as such don't stop, but there are limitations and things that we still need to work on how to use this data. For example, one thing that we've noticed, that now that we've been using the tool for about 10 years, and the data keeps accumulating, and we have a lot of data. It's mostly still, even if it's systematic questionnaire data, it's still, I would say, it's still quite qualitative, at least in our sense. And it's a bit difficult it's laborious to go through the data and see what's still valid, how to set sort of like a best before date to this kind of data set. Like some other data set, let's refer to flying squirrels again, for example. That is a data set that is provided to us by outside experts, by nature experts, every so often in a systematic way in a year. I don't know how many years there's like a renewal period of the data, but there's no such sort of requirements for this kind of participatory GIS that you should regard questionnaires older than 5 years old outdated. Because some mappings can be valid for a very long time, and some can be outdated much earlier. And then it becomes a bit harder for the planner to be able to trust whether this data is still valid or not, if it's very old.
And from my point of view, if I may add where the limitations are, I mean, we work globally in over 40 countries at the moment. And so I hear the stories from different kinds of organizations and from different kinds of cultural contexts. But I feel that many institutes, organizations struggle a bit with the data management, as Johanna just described. Also, sometimes they have challenges in the analysis phase of the data, because those data sets can be huge. And if you haven't really carefully, for example, taught the questions, how to design the questions and how to design the questionnaire, you can get quite challenging data set back, which is demanding and laborious then to analyze and visualize. But then also I feel that some limitations are when it comes to transparency. I mean, it's still something I hope to see more happening in the future. I think we need some new tools, or we have to think the ways to do this better. But how to make it, and now GDPR is also a little bit affecting this, but how to make it somehow more transparent for the residents, what kind of data has been collected, how the data has been used, how it has affected the planning, and how it's, for example, not directly, but how is it visible in their living environment. So how to add this transparency into these processes, and when using the data and when collecting the data. So there we have some limitations, I feel.
Yeah, really great insights into the tool and really on the learnings behind it. Do you both have anything else that you would like to add in this section? I'd like to give you the opportunity as an open floor to add something that you feel quite passionate about that the listeners need to know. Johanna, you have something?
I fully agree with what Maarit has said about the challenges in analysis and transparency. The analysis challenge we have tried to tackle by engaging the academic community in our questionnaires that we do, that we, if possible, consult researchers and do the projects together, so that we get knowledge that we can use in the planning process, but we can also get sort of like new research results as well. So mutually beneficial knowledge for planning and research. So that can be one way how to tackle the analysis challenge, because researchers are experts on analyzing data. We planners may not necessarily be that. And I have very good experiences about that kind of collaboration. And then the transparency issue, I fully agree with that as well, Maarit, that we need to make it absolutely more transparent to the people, not only in the planning phase, but sort of afterwards also, why the planning outcome is the way it is, how we use the data, and why the planning outcome is like this, and communicate it back very clearly to them also. We have a very strict bureaucratic documentation system for plans in Finland, and we could easily use that system that we have to communicate a bit better than we do at the moment. And we have done that in Lahti a little bit. We for example, the planning report that we have to write, it's legally required of us. And so we've used that in very simple ways, pointing out in the text with a different font or underlining or making a box, this bit of the planning solution where you explain the plan, then you point out this was an idea that came from the people, for example. They can be very simple things. But then again, who reads planning reports? You need other communication tools as well. So it's all about having an open, continuous dialogue on different platforms with the people.
Good. Maarit, do you have any closing words for this, the main part of the interview?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know closing words, but something to share. I mean, I have to say that when we started at the university and we started to think that whether practitioners could also use these type of tools and technologies, and then when the practitioners came to us and said this is interesting and relevant, and when we established the company, I mean, it was all about finding the right-minded people from these different organizations, from the cities, who were brave enough to test and try these types of new tools. And I think that is something I want to share to everyone, that I think we wouldn't be here without those brave people like Johanna who have, I mean, the tool is just a tool, as Johanna said, but the people then make it something different and can also drive a change when there is this ambition to use these tools to do something sort of differently and make something better. So I think these types of I would like to kind of thank all these brave people who are willing to test and learn and try. And I think in participation, it's all about that we have to be open for new ideas and innovations and testing and learning and doing these things together. I think it will never be sort of ready in a way.
Yeah. Now, thanks to both of you brave people also for coming onto the podcast and talking about this. I have a little, also, I have another ask of you that also requires a little bit of bravery, and it's during one of our segments. It's actually a new segment of ours called Freaky Friday. Freaky Friday. Switch places with your co-interviewee and answer a few questions in their shoes. So Maarit, now you are Johanna, and Johanna, now you are Maarit. So get in each other's mindset a little bit. Good. Maarit, what is your hope for your organization? Maptionnaire.
Oh, this is not.
You are Maarit.
My hope for Maptionnaire, me, Maarit now.
Yes.
My hope for Maptionnaire is that it'll be more and more widely used globally, but that at the same time as it spreads, it'll also keep developing in an innovative way to answer users' needs and be a pertinent tool even in the future.
Yeah, I'd like to see that as well. Good. Now, Johanna, what is your hope for your organization?
Well, I certainly hope, Lahti. I hope that we at the city of Lahti would get more sort of feedback from the people, not through Maptionnaire, but in general, we would get this feedback from the people that they would come to us saying that, hey, we love this city and it has been amazing how the city has developed further, and it's becoming more livable and lovable, and that we are doing great work together with them. So there was something else also in my mind, but now I lost it.
All good. Very lovely. I'm glad you could get in each other's shoes for a minute. And now you can switch back to your own shoes. So just back in your own mindset. I would like to ask the question that I ask every single guest that comes onto the show, because as you know, we are a smart city podcast, and that term we use in a very broad way. And I always like to get in everyone's heads as to what they actually view a smart city as. So, Maarit, to you, what is a smart city?
Oh, this is tricky because I have been actually criticizing a lot the concept and the term, to be honest. I mean, smart city, because it used to be more just and only about technology. And I was a little bit irritated that, okay, now we are designing this talking bins and, all these sort of different kinds of, new thingies that are just smart. And I felt always that, is this now that we are just creating and generating a lot of new technologies and stuff, So I have been quite critical towards the term, I have to say. But I think smart city at best is a city where we use certainly tools and technology and digital ways and channels and all that, but it's the people who drive the use of these tools, and it's all about the people behind the technology, people using the technology. And I think we have to take ownership and control when it, like what we want and when it is valuable for the making of the city, that we just don't do that for the sake of being smart and bringing new technology in. So we are a little bit more mindful. And also I have to say that nowadays, in this sort of ecological crisis in which we are, and climate change and all that, so I would like the smart city thinking to concentrate also more to the sustainability issues and that side. So it's balancing in a way.
The balancing act of a city, yes. Good. Johanna, I imagine you share similar views, but would love to hear in your words, to you, what is a smart city?
Absolutely. I think a smart city is a smart community. So it's all about people and working together. And that was a good point that you made, Maarit, that smartness very, very much should be about sustainability as well. So it's not just technology. Technology can be smart and it can support these goals of being a smart community together, like your technological tool, Maptionnaire, does that. But it's not only that.
Yeah, perfect. I think it's really nice to widen this definition a bit and really talk at the core about who is the technology serving. And if it does not serve that purpose, then why are we using it? So I love that topic when we talk about smart cities as well. So with that, I only have one thing left to say, and that's just a big thank you to both of you for a lovely and very insightful episode. So yeah, thank you so much, and I hope we can do it again sometime.
Thank you, Tamlin, and thank you, Johanna.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And to all of our listeners, don't forget you can always create a free account on babel-smartcities.eu, and you can find out all about different projects, solutions, implementations. You can even find a use case from Maptionnaire and Lahti on there. So make sure to check that out to get more information about how this tool is used in Lahti. So yeah, thank you all. Thank you all for listening. I'll see you at the next stop on the journey to a better urban life.
And I would have to step into Maarit's shoes. My first reaction would be, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do all that traveling.
Indeed.